Hello, and welcome to a special edition of Around the Valley, the soon-to-be award-winning sports talk show that has all the critics swooning. As always, today we will debate local and national sports issues with our esteemed panelists. At the end of the show, one of them will be crowned the People's Champion and will be awarded 30 seconds of rant time on a topic of their choice. I'm your host today, Dylan Mullaney, pleased to announce that tonight we'll be joined by none other than the show's producers and directors, taking their knowledge out of the back and coming and showing it here on the debate table. Across from me, director extraordinaire and behind-the-scenes genius, Teddy Barry. Thanks for joining me, Ted.
Thank you, Dill. It's great to be here.
And on my right, the always potent and always tangent, Will Weir. Thanks for showing up, Will.
Thanks, Dylan. It's good to be on the other side of the table for once.
I bet it is. Our first topic today, guys, is the tragic passing of Junior Seau, who on Wednesday night was found shot dead in his home from a self-inflicted gunshot wound on Wednesday night. Sad news, and it's been speculated that his death has had something to do with concussions sustained during his playing career. Ted, just throw it out to you, a couple words on what this means for the league.
Well, first of all, Dill, obviously it's a terrible thing that happened. Junior Seau, legend, automatic Hall of Fame, a 20-year career. The rest of the players can't speak highly enough about him. But what this has to say for the rest of the league is, we've seen the past couple of years Goodell really cracking down, Roger Goodell, the commissioner, cracking down on concussions, hard hits, things like that. There's been all this evidence coming out that concussions suffered during NFL players' careers can lead to dementia and depression down the line. 4 retired NFL players have committed suicide in the past 6 years alone, and this is just terrible. Especially the past 3, Andre Waters, Dave Dewison, and Ray Easterling, not exactly household names, but still. But Junior Seau, a name of this magnitude, suffering from this, right in the wake of all these lawsuits popping up, it just, I don't know, I can't see it being good for the league down the line.
Well, first of all, I want to echo your sentiments on how great of a player Junior Seau was. Clearly, this is a tragedy. But focusing on the effects it has on the league, safety and being tough on players has really become Roger Goodell's staple as a commissioner. It's kind of what I believe, when he's all said and done, it's what he will be remembered for. And this just kind of adds to that. He comes down hard on players for hard hits. James Harrison especially comes to mind, And, especially where concussions are concerned, the NFL has become very involved in that. And, as a society, we keep getting more and more information about the damage that these concussions has on these players post-playing career. And this is just kind of another example that really highlights, and as you mentioned, a Hall of Fame player. And so it really has shown a light on how dangerous some of these concussions can be.
Absolutely, I agree, Will. Just to note, Peter King has got an article in this month's Sports Illustrated on Junior Seau. I checked it out the other day. It's a great piece. He's got a couple nice anecdotes about Seau, who I'd like to add only missed 9 games due to injury in the first 14 years of his career. When you're playing like the way he played and you're only missing 9 games over a 14-year span, there's not much to say, just impressive. When it comes to player safety, though, there's really one team that comes to mind nowadays, and that's the New Orleans Saints. Wednesday, just hours before the announcement of Seau's death, Roger Goodell handed out suspensions for 4 players who were associated with the Bountygate scandal. Jonathan Vilma suspended for a full season, Anthony Hargrove for 8 games, Will Smith for 4 games, and Scott Fujita for 3 games. Will, want to just touch on how you feel about a full season suspension for Jonathan Vilma? I know it's gotten a lot of press coverage lately.
Well, building off from the concussion thing, this is why Roger Goodell has come down so hard on all of this Bountygate talk, because even though a lot of the Bountygate scandal involved, you couldn't really pinpoint too many hits that the Saints made that were fined. Just the fact that it was out there that they were getting rewarded for card-offs and knockouts. Those are the type of things that lead to concussions. And for Jonathan Vilma suspended for a year, to a degree it does seem a bit excessive, but he at the same time, he, along with Greg Williams and Sean Payton, he's really the face of this scandal when it comes to a player perspective. And so I feel as though Roger Goodell had to lay down the hammer in his mind, and that by suspending him for as long as, Sean Payton, who was kind of, at least from the way the suspensions have worked out, second in command to Greg Williams, with this bounty scandal. I think that's why he came down so hard. Now, whether it's fair or not, a lot of the sources and information that the league has, we don't directly know about. It's been said that there's emails saying that Vilma specifically put bounties on Kurt Warner and Brett Favre's head for $10,000 during the 2009 playoffs. But other than that, we don't really know what other information there is about many of these players. There's been a little tidbits here and there, but I'm really interested to see if and when this case goes to court with the NFL Players Association, what other information we find out as the public.
Right. It seems like, Vilma's definitely the face of this. He's been called a ringleader. He supposedly put in his own money, which, besides him, it seems like it was mostly the coaches putting in the money. But I just still can't get over this. These guys are essentially paid to hit people to, if they do their job correctly, they've hurt people before. That's kind of, indirectly what they're paid to do, to play the game hard, to play it tough.
It's what they're taught from a young age and just keep building up, especially when you get to the pros.
You can't really take it out of the game. And now, Goodell has this huge job in his hands. There's allegations that the NFL has for years covered up, not just not known concussion syndromes and symptoms and things like that. They've actually lied about what they knew. They've lied about their findings and covered them up. And now that the fact is all coming out, Roger Goodell took over from Tagliabue and kind of at the worst time. And he's been known as a law and order commissioner, as you said now, and kind of cracking down on everything.
Very unfavorable with a lot of the players. An article on ESPN.com in the past couple of days about how many players actually do not like Roger Goodell in the way he commissions the league.
Right. The players think he should leave the violence in the game. It's, the retired players who want these benefits and, kind of want their health to be cared for now in their old age, and they're suffering from all these things. But the guys in the game now, they make their name and they make their money off big hits like this. And specifically with the bounty, this has been going on forever. You look back at 1989, the Bounty Bowls. There were two different games dubbed the Bounty Bowls between the Eagles and Cowboys, 1989. CBS Sports actually advertised it as the Bounty Bowl. The commissioner attended the second one. This has been going on. This has been, glorified, romanticized, and it's just, I don't see how this can be, the league can just take this on. And I really see it becoming, there's been talks of it coming to turn into a flag football, so to speak, type of game. The high-flying passing offenses, the rules that have, been in favor of offenses in the past couple of years. The defenses, they're really, they're taking a lot of their power away. And it's just, for such a lucrative league who have made their name and made their money off violence and hard hits, I just, I'm scared for the future of the NFL right
Violent and lucrative seems to be the calling card of the NFL.
Yep.
Good points, guys. Lots of good points, Teddy. Recently, it's been announced that there's up to 1,000 players who have now filed suits against the NFL for things like covering up concussions. It seems like this spring has been dominated by news from the NFL, but I don't know if you guys heard, there is baseball playing right now.
Absolutely.
Through the grapevine, I think I've got a witness of this.
And it's actually been going on for a month. And until now, just recently, Albert Pujols was held without a home run for the first month of the season. How crazy is that? Yeah. Will, I don't know if you want to just touch upon Pujols and what do you expect from him for the rest of the season?
Well, one of the crazier stats after he hit his first home run was that there have been 789 homers hit in the MLB before Albert Pujols hit his first. And for a $260 million man, that's just not quite going to get it done.
Right.
But at the same time, I hope he's really turned the corner. I've been a big Albert Pujols fan. He seems to be in the midst of all this steroid era. He's been someone who's played the game the right way.
Yep.
He plays hard. He goes out there, goes about his business, has phenomenal stats throughout his career. In fact, he's only finished outside of the top 10 in RBIs once in his career. And by the way, he had 103 that year. So, I'm not too worried about Albert Pujols. I think he's going to turn it around. Right now, he's still batting below 200, but the Angels as a whole kind of need to get it together. But I believe, their pitching staff needs to get it going, but Albert Pujols is really the mainframe of that team. They've built their season around him. And honestly, based on his history, I have full faith that by the end of the season, his numbers will end up evening out.
Yeah, I agree, Will. This guy's too good not to wake up. He's got the whole jump from the National League to American League. There's not that big of a difference between the pitchers in these two leagues. And also, don't forget, we're looking at only, 30 games so far?
Yeah.
There's still plenty of time left.
Size.
Remember, David Ortiz last year had a terrible, terrible April start to the season. He woke up at the end of the season, had one of his better years, I just can't see a guy of this, this caliber not shaping up by the end
He's
of
the
the
machine.
year. He is. He's the machine. Not the man. Don't call him the man.
Not a machine, the machine.
Absolutely.
And not just Pujols have we seen a weird start to the season, but let's just take a look at division leaders. In the AL, we've got Baltimore, Cleveland, and Texas. I mean, Texas is a perennial powerhouse, but Baltimore and Cleveland, are you kidding me? Two perennial cellar dwellers leading their divisions. In the NL, the Washington Nationals are leading the NL East. St. Louis, we can understand, even without La Russa, is still leading the Central, and the LA Dodgers look good out in the West. A strange season, just that seems to be the theme of it. And that could be no more true than with the injury to Mariano Rivera. Sustained a season-ending ACL tear, shagging flies during batting practice in Kansas City. Ted, I don't know if you just want to talk about what this might mean for Rivera and the rest of his career.
Yeah, you never want to see this to happen to anybody, and even as a diehard Red Sox fan, you got to respect guys like Rivera and Jeter. I've never had a bad thing to say about Rivera. He goes out, he does his job, he doesn't say anything. He's the best closer to ever play the game, and he's ageless. I mean, he could play until he's 50, I feel like. And for him to come back, and people are thinking it's going to be the end of his career. This is a terrible injury to come back from. But just I can see him, making a full recovery and being back next season and playing 2 to 3 more seasons after this.
Ted, I hope you're right. Like you said, much like you, I'm a long-time Red Sox fan. Usually hate the Yankees. I can't find it in me to do it with Mariano Rivera.
Yeah.
Just a class act.
Class act.
After the 2004 World Series, when we had the ceremony at Fenway Park, Mariano Rivera was introduced. He blew a couple of games in the ALCS, and the Red Sox fans, being just Red Sox fans,
Ruthless.
give him a standing ovation, and he took it right with a smile, went right in stride with it, and. I mean, he's a 12-time All-Star, career .70 ERA in the postseason and 42-plus innings pitched.
Unbelievable.
Just incredible. Like you said, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, best closer there ever was.
No question.
It's a tough injury to come back from. He seems very resilient at this point that he will make this comeback. And, Dill, I hope he does.
I hope he does as well. So it seems like we've got a lot to look forward to with the rest of the baseball season. But in the spring, it's not only about baseball. It's also time for the Triple Crown. And we just recently had the first leg of the Triple Crown, the Belmont Stakes. Nope, Kentucky Derby.
One of them, something like that.
Yeah. And on the same weekend, the Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Miguel Cotto fight. And I just wanted to talk about maybe how each of these two sports, horse racing and boxing, has sort of maybe moved out of the limelight in the past 10 years or so. Let's start with the Kentucky Derby and the horse racing. Ted, have you got any thoughts on what they can do maybe to get back up to where they once were?
Yeah, it seems like, first of all, I'm surprised it's kind of fallen out. For a sport that's essentially built around gambling, that's really, its biggest draw, and, gambling's illegal and everything, but there's still a huge amount of people who, gamble on this every year and find it in them, but it just seems like the excitement isn't there. Like we were talking about, violence and action is kind of what we want to see from out of our sports. You look at the success of the UFC and football recently, and just, horses running around a track just isn't doing it for people anymore, despite the lure of the gambling. And it's always good to see, a big horse make a run, and run at the Triple Crown is always a great thing. But
it is.
For the average guy, I don't think it's really there for him. The lure is just not, it's not action-packed enough.
Well, to begin, I think Dylan's segue into the segment was perfect. It's so fitting. It's
right.
Belmont Stakes, Kentucky Derby.
They're all the same.
To most sports fans, it's not important anymore. It's not really relevant. And you mentioned the gambling aspect of it. I think a big part of that is, if we look back, say 40 years ago, 30, 40 years ago, since then the gambling market has really expanded its growth. There's so many different casinos you can go to, the Laura Vegas and Atlantic City and stuff like that. So, it used to be it still is a huge draw gambling wise, but it is nowhere near the mainstream gamble market that it used to be back in the day. It's really, it's become a fashion show of sorts.
Exactly.
Who's wearing the biggest hat? Who's showing up? Is Belichick there? Is Welker there? What celebrities made it out? And then when you look to boxing, it's really, there's no more heavyweights. Where are the heavyweights? Where's the Alis, the Fraziers, the Tysons, the Holyfields? They can't be found. And even within those heavyweights, there were these great rivalries. And now we're left with, fighters who, some very good fighters, but the two main guys that everybody wants to see, Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, every time you think you're going to get there, something seems to just snatch it away. These guys just cannot get it together. And, I think it's really hurting the sport itself. These are two kind of individual sports, horses and then the boxing, one-on-one. And I think really America has been driven towards team sports, and especially the way with the new social media markets we have, that they're broadcast and you can interact with them through Twitter, Facebook, and all these different outlets. And it's really easier for people to associate with a team sport rather than just following a particular individual.
Right. And also, I was saying about how, people want to see violence in their sports. Boxing's a perfect example of that. So why is that kind of fallen off? Like you were saying about the heavyweights, kind of died out a little bit, but also the personalities have just gone out the window.
Right. The entertainment value, I think, is what's missing. Not just from the boxing, but from the horse racing as well.
Yeah. And you got Pretty Boy Floyd and his whole entourage and everything and his spiel, but the fact that to me, it's really on him that this Pacquiao fight isn't happening. He doesn't want to fight Pacquiao. To me, he's scared of his undefeated streak being, ended by Pacquiao. And I'd say he has a good reason to fear that.
Doesn't help that he's going to jail either.
Exactly, right. But the fact that he's, refusing to fight Pacquiao time after time, well, this is what we're getting from, their camps, that he doesn't want to fight. Pacquiao's allegedly done performance-enhancing drugs, and he doesn't want to fight, out of his weight class and all that. But the fact that they can't get this together just means these are really the only two fighters that boxing fans care about, honestly, right at this point. And the fact that they can't come together and do this just means that the sport can only go down from here, I think.
No, I agree. I think Mayweather versus Pacquiao is, that's what everybody wants to see, from casual sports fans to the diehards. That's the fight that's out there everybody wants to see.
That would be that would be the biggest TV event of the year, no question.
Without a doubt.
If that fight happened.
And, I hope it gets done. And then looking at the horse racing aspect, until we get somebody who comes up and wins a Triple Crown, I don't think it's... I think a Triple Crown could help it gain some more relevance.
Oh, yes.
I don't know how much it would vault it, but, I'll have another. It's on you, brother. Let's make it happen.
All right, guys, switching gears a little bit, we're going to go over to a big story that's hit college athletics right now. Big East Commissioner John Marinato has actually stepped down after only 3 years on the job. He's just recently lost Syracuse and Pitt to the ACC and West Virginia to the Big 12 Conference. Not really a favorable situation for anybody to enter into. Ted, you want to start us off on what this means for college athletics?
Yep. As you're saying, he kind of came in at the wrong time. Everybody's kind of switching conferences now. It's all politics in college football, unfortunately, as we've come to see. Politics and money, that's really all it is. They refuse to take a playoff system, into their postseason because of the revenue, just massive amounts of revenue they get out of the bowl system. But, all this conference switching, for the Big East in particular, local fans like us, we've really had only BC to cheer for in football and basketball the past several years. And the fact that such a top-tier conference like the Big East is losing its most prominent members in football, it's just terrible for this region too. And it's a good thing that UMass is finally bumped up to D1, going over to the MAC. But they're in that, the Mid-Atlantic Conference. They're going to be playing schools out in the Midwest.
Right. Lots of travel.
The local sports scene is just dying right now, and for college football, and not that New England has ever been, a college football mecca. We have kind of a fantastic professional team to follow. But it's just this whole college landscape changing. It's just another sign that the NCAA doesn't really know what it's doing and only looks out for its school presidents and its boosters, and seems not to care about the average fan.
Will, do you want to say something about the how this affects the basketball scene?
I would love to because I'm a huge basketball fan. Big East basketball has been the top.
Right.
It's been the top of the NCAA basketball world for several years now. And, it's really a shame that the Big East is having to shift so many members, losing staple members like Pitt, Syracuse, West Virginia, and I mean, just to give you a little example of what really irritates me is a little list of some of the arriving teams in the Big East. Boise State, San Diego State for football. That's the West Coast. It's the Big East. I mean, and then they got, for all sports coming in, Memphis, SMU, and Houston. Can you tell me something that is East about Houston? I mean, it's just the entire landscape of the sporting world is being shaped through the BCS, and it is driving me insane. The Big Ten now has 12 teams.
It's become a joke.
The Big 12 has 10 teams. I mean, at least the Pac-12 had the
switch
decency.
names or something.
Exactly. At least the Pac-12 had the decency to go from Pac-10 to 12. I don't know what is the Big 10 and what is the Big 12 anymore.
I know.
I mean, we're losing rivalries. We're losing the Big East tournament, which I believe is one of the best spectacles in sports.
It is.
It's so hard to imagine it without Syracuse being there, and even Pittsburgh, one of the I mean, that UConn Syracuse 6 overtime game from a few years ago?
Oh my God.
We won't witness that anymore.
Right, no.
Missouri versus Kansas in the Big 12 rivalry, that's gone.
Right.
So many of these great traditional rivalries are being broken down by the BCS and the chase of that dollar that, college football to a degree is kind of losing its appeal on me.
It is.
And that was one of the biggest draws for college football. I mean, it's always the same 20 to 25 football teams that have the shot at winning the national title every year. And so for the average fan, it's really all about the rivalries. Whose school, they have one or two big games every year that every student turns out for, every fan watches. And to just take these away from the sport, it's terrible for the sport. It's terrible for the
because of that
NCAA.
BCS system. That's why it's so important for these smaller schools like Boise and San Diego, SMU, all them, to get into one of these Big Six conferences because they're guaranteed that big bowl game. Boise State, TCU, Utah, they've all been teams that have kind of had great seasons. Some of them have even gone undefeated, and yet they've still been, they know they're one loss away from completely missing out on that giant prize of playing in one of those big bowl games. So if they get themselves entrenched in one of those Big Six, no one can take that away from them. Even if they go 8-3, they'll still have a chance to be in that bowl game.
Right. It's all about the revenues when it comes to those big bowl games. The advertising revenues are huge.
Yep.
You gotta feel for a school like UConn, though. I think they're losing Syracuse. That's every year you got to come to look forward to UConn and Syracuse in the Big East tournament. That's no more. So who knows how long UConn's going to stick around for?
That's very true. With every school, it seems right now that they kind of have to have a backup plan.
Right.
There's very few schools who I would consider as stable within their own conferences. I would say for the most part, most of them have, some type of contingency plan where if team A or B shifts over to this conference, then maybe we're going to make the move over here. I mean, there's talk that the Big 12 is breaking down so much that they might even, in the next couple of years, be demolished completely, which is just unfathomable.
A similar situation has actually happened in the WAC, the Western American Conference. There's only 2 teams remaining in that football conference. Idaho and New Mexico. Those are the only 2 left out of 12.
It's a pair. It's not a conference anymore.
So what they're thinking is that
wonder who's going to make the championship game.
they're going to have to move to the FCS to keep playing. All right, guys. Now's the time in our show where we'd like to send it over to the beautiful Mark McDonough. What's in the garbage can this week, Mark?
Welcome to the Garbage Can with your host, beautiful Mark McDonough. I'm just going to get right into it because I have a final to take immediately after this. If you think I'm kidding, you don't really know me at all. I was never really good with that whole priorities thing. The Atlanta Hawks here in the garbage can. Al Horford hadn't played a game since January and decided to have him wing it, no pun intended, against the most storied team in NBA history on their home court. How did you think that was a good idea? T-Mac is more accurately T-Fat now, and wait, you know what? I'm wasting my breath even talking about this team. They are horrible and always have been. What's the opposite of a dynasty? Because they are whatever that is. They lose every year. They are like the Mexico of the NBA. We all pretend they're a world power, but really, they're just annoying. Atlanta Hawks, get off my TV and into the garbage can. The second entrant in the garbage can is Floyd Mayweather. This may be a bit confusing considering he just won a $32 million fight and maintained his undefeated streak. But are you aware of anything else surrounding that circus? Mayweather, formerly Mr. Hanky the Christmas Pooh from Comedy Central South Park, had to get this fight done in May because he's going to jail for beating his wife in June. What a stand-up guy. If I didn't hate him enough already, did you happen to catch his entourage to the ring? He came in with Justin Bieber and let him hold his belts. Seriously? Imagine if Muhammad Ali came to the ring with the 3 kids from the Brady Bunch. Joe Frazier would have broken all their jaws just on principle. Mayweather also came to the ring with 50 Cent, Lil Wayne, and Triple H. 2 people who pretend to be rappers and 1 person who pretends to be a championship fighter. Not exactly a great way to establish your credibility there, Floyd. This thing looked more like the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards in a boxing match. I was expecting Rosie O'Donnell to come out and slime Miguel Cotto. For all of that, and for making Joe Louis turn over in his grave, Floyd Mayweather, you're in the garbage can. That's it, guys. End it or I will!
All right, thanks, Mark. Thanks for the garbage can. Now comes the time in our show where we announce who is this week's People's Champ. Will, you've been very potent and very tangent.
As always.
As always. But today, I'm sad to say, the belt goes to Teddy.
Come on.
Here you go, Ted.
Better host
Congratulations.
shines through, finally. All right, well, thank you, Dylan. I'm honored to win this championship finally instead of handing it out. Amherst, Pioneer Valley, America. To talk to you a little bit about a sport. One of my favorite sports. People call it the fastest game on 2 feet. I have to agree with them. Of course, I'm talking about lacrosse. It gets overshadowed a lot by its more popular sport, baseball. But it is one of the most fantastic games I've ever played. It's just thrilling. It's nonstop action the entire time. Of course, we've been following here and around the valley the UMass men's team for the entire season. They recently just wrapped up the first perfect season ever. Second perfect season ever. First since 1969. They've just set the school record for wins. Won the CAA championship. They're headed to the tournament, and I attended the Syracuse-Cornell championship game 2 years ago at Gillette Stadium, and it was the best game that I've ever seen in my entire life in person. I haven't been to many sporting events, in case you didn't know. But it was a fantastic game, won at the last second. It was just an unbelievable atmosphere. For all you college kids out there, it is just a day-long party. The entire weekend, actually, is a huge party. It's a big tailgate. I recommend everybody go this Memorial Day weekend. Even if UMass doesn't make it, it's just an unbelievable time. And especially if UMass does make it, you got to go. Also, I'd like to give a quick promotion out to the Spirit House. Spirit House is the best liquor store in New England, without a question. They have the friendliest staff, the best selection, and if anybody is scared of tweeting at me, I'll be working my final shift there this weekend. You can come and tell me to my face how right or wrong I am about anything you hear on the show. Before I wrap up, I'd also like to say this is my last time appearing on Around the Valley. I'd like to give a huge shout out to everybody who helped us this semester. Candace and Kayla especially, Jim and Craig, all the interns we had. Dill for hosting today, and of course, my co-producer and co-creator, Weir. Thank you, appreciate it.
I like the shout out to the mullet. Business out front, party in the back. We love you, Spirit House. Just a couple quick notes. Good luck to UMass lacrosse this weekend against Colgate, and good luck to our man, Jonathan Quick, for the LA Kings. Take it home, buddy.
He's taking it.
Thanks for watching today, and tune in for our last episode of the season, Friday night. Thank you, and be good to each other.